And welcome again to the Dave LewAllen Podcast. As you know, if you've been with us for previous episodes, we cover sports stories, newsmakers, and difference makers in our community. It is a pleasure today to welcome Kevin Bessert, co-owner of 20 Front Street, a music venue in Lake Orion, a difference maker in that you're changing the arts scene in certainly city of Lake Orion, but in this area of northern Oakland County as well. Congratulations on that. Let's talk about 20 Front Street.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having us on and having an interest in 20 Front Street to kind of go through what we've done over the years and kind of what we're looking forward to in the future.
And it's an interesting story. It's a music venue again. It's intimate. Seat 90 to 100 people?
Yep. The capacity is 90 people.
Yeah.
But yeah, we say we're an intimate listening room. And listening room is a term that's kind of in the music industry, and there are other venues similarly around the country that are kind of in that listening room space.
And an interesting story in terms of the building you're in, 20 Front Street, and the life it previously had before it became 20 Front Street, the music venue.
Absolutely. We love to tell our story of kind of how it came to be for us, but there is a lot of history there. And as we kind of built out the building, we wanted to kind of pay homage to some of those former histories of the building. But it really started back in 2016. One of the co-founders of 20 Front Street, one of my business partners, Alan Getz, was actually up at a men's retreat up in northern Michigan, and there was a great speaker there that weekend by the name of Jamie Winship, who's a phenomenal speaker, and he was just kind of asking them that weekend to just kind of pray a prayer of like, what is God asking you to do and to do it? And he said he just, as he kind of prayed through that all weekend long, he kept getting a vision of that building in downtown Lake Orion, and that there needed to be music in that space. And at the time, the building was in very rough condition. It was vacant. And so Alan came back from that weekend, kind of shared with his wife what he was feeling, and they went and looked at the building. And at that time, you could just really walk in.
Yeah.
And again, it was a dirt floor. There was cats in there. It was in rough shape. But really, he just really felt there needed to be music in that space. And so he started kind of rounding up a group of people in the community, friends, acquaintances that he knew in the space, and kind of started to really put some momentum behind this idea. And as he kind of started to pull this team together, one of the cool things about the building was, it had formerly been a creamery, and so the lower level walkout that faces the children's park in Lake Orion is now an ice cream shop, and so there was some opportunities there. But yeah, and when we took it over, I think the most recent iteration of it was an antique shop. So yeah, it has a lot of history in the community, and we're able to kind of give it some rebirth.
And you had to obviously make it conducive to music, so from an acoustic standpoint, and adding to the intimacy and attractiveness of the space.
Yep, and that really, I just mentioned that Alan was kind of pulling together a team. One of the other owners that's part of our team is Scott Loudon, and he's a sound engineer by trade. He actually owns a recording studio in the Ortonville area, and the room is all him. It was his design, his vision, and so much acoustical thought put into the room. If you've seen it, yeah, there's a hallway on one side that you kind of enter the venue, which creates kind of a buffer on one side. Our green room's on the other side, which helps kind of block the sound on the street side. But yeah, there was so much acoustical thought put into it. Scott often says when he's asked about it that it was kind of a vision of a recording studio and a venue kind of all in one. And he references, back there were rooms built back in the day to listen to Beethoven play, and there was rooms built where people would just come to listen, and that was kind of his thought behind the room. And really, 7 years later, it's really become our calling card, right? Like what we hear constantly from artists and from patrons is the sound, the acoustics in our room are just something you don't normally see. If you're again not in a listening room type environment, just your more typical concert venue.
Well, having been to 20 Front Street, I can attest to the acoustics, the sound. It's a great experience.
I appreciate it. And then I should say, too, another big part of that when we're talking about sound and acoustics is our sound engineer, Jim Rawlings, is one of the best in the area. And he was part of, again, that team that Alan pulled together as part of this project. And he just does a phenomenal job and is a big part of why artists sound the way they do when they play at 20 Front Street.
You've got pews in there as well for seating, almost a little Grand Ole Opry kind of feel in that regard, too.
Yep, and those were, again, as this was just all kind of being pulled together, those were taken from a church up in Caro, Michigan that was closing, and we were able to go get those and bring them down to Lake Orion. But yeah, what we hear constantly, if people are familiar in Nashville, the Ryman Auditorium is the mother church, they call it. But the Ryman has church pews for seating. And so we have artists all the time that come into our venue and they see it for the first time. They're like, oh my gosh, they're like, this is just a little miniature Ryman Auditorium. So like, it reminds me exactly of it, just a mini version. So yeah, we've heard the mini Ryman term often used because of the church pew seating.
And that intimacy is great for us as a listening audience, appreciating the music, but it's got to be pretty neat for the artists as well to have that. I mean, you're right there with them.
Yeah, and that's, it is a two-way. It's the patrons sitting in the seats, but also for the artists. And I think there is that appetite that's grown. Because of as artists kind of get to some bigger size venues, you lose some of that intimacy. And what we've seen now as we've grown, and again, we're several years into this, is now we're seeing some artists that maybe want to do, what are called underplays, where they would probably play in our market a bigger venue, maybe a 300 to 400 seat cap. But they still have that. Maybe I'll play the underplay and play only for a room of 90. But it's because I can have that level of intimacy and I can maybe try out some new stuff that I couldn't otherwise. And so I mean it's why the kind of listening room concept I think was born. And it's just a different musical experience than some of the other, bigger venues you're going to go to.
And let's talk about the music and the artists that you bring in. You've got a central role in that in terms of booking. I mean, it's folk, it's kind of roots, Americana on average, but, I assume you range beyond that as well.
We do. I mean, we try and, really vary what we book. I think you nailed it in that, that folk Americana singer-songwriter is kind of our sweet spot. That's kind of our niche, but that's more, I think, just the room lends itself to that. But yeah, definitely, I mean, we've done blues, jazz. I mean, we try and really mix it up and have a nice mix of some local artists and some national touring artists. Obviously, when we started, we kind of were booking a lot of like Detroit local bands and all that. But as we got a few nationally touring artists that came, they went back to Nashville, told some of their friends who then came up, and then they went back and told some of their friends. So we've been extremely fortunate to now kind of be in the listening room circuit. Again, I mentioned there's rooms kind of in the Midwest and across the country that a lot of artists will book as kind of a whole circuit. And we're kind of part of that. And so now we get a lot of the national and touring artists as part of that, which is great. And we've had the opportunity to build some strong relationships with some of those artists now from Nashville. And so, it's been a lot of fun to watch them kind of grow with us as we've been doing it.
So Trinity House is another music venue, probably similar in some ways. And of course, the Ark in Ann Arbor.
When we got started, obviously the Ark in Ann Arbor is the history and it is the gold standard. At the time when we got started, the other one, the Trinity House was there, obviously a little bit smaller, but at the time there was on the west side of the state, over in Spring Lake, which is near Grand Haven, there was a listening room very similar size to us called Seven Steps Up, and unfortunately about a year ago they closed. But we looked to them for advice at the time, because at the time they were the only ones that were really doing it and booking kind of what we were envisioning booking, and so we leaned on them a lot early on, and then eventually we were able to create a nice little 1-2 punch in Michigan for artists to come and play east side of the state with us, go over to the west side of the state, play there, and so it's Unfortunately, some we've lost, but there's still a good network. There's another one in Grand Rapids, Midtown, that's there. That's similar, a little bit bigger, but so yeah, there's a little network of rooms that again, independent venues that kind of book similar type artists.
So you're limited in some ways because of the size of the venue. So you keep that in mind as you are booking acts as well. You've got certainly local people still. You've got up and comers, but you've attracted some acts that that do travel the country. I mean,
Absolutely.
I saw the Young Fables there. Really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic venue. They are so talented, and you say they'll be coming back.
They will be coming back this summer. But yeah, I mean that's been the fun part of it is watching some of these artists that come through, and then obviously go on to bigger and better things. And the next time they come to the market, they're probably going to need a bigger room, which is the way this should work, right? Mm-hmm. But it's fun to kind of watch them grow. And we've had now again because we've been around long enough, been able to watch growth to where. Yeah, we had people start with us and play to not even a full room in our room that were just nominated for Grammys and we're just performed on the Grammys. So you're going to see that growth. But to your point about we are the size of the room and booking towards that. Again, we're trying to find creative ways because there is an artist appetite. So one thing we've started doing more recently that I think we'll see more of is like a residency play where they need more than one night because, again, we can only seat X amount a night, but maybe they play 2 or 3 nights in a row. We just had Joe Hertler and the Rainbow Seekers. They just did 3 nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and sold them all out. We have one coming up this month, Will Hogue. He's doing 2 nights, sold them both out. So that's one way to kind of get around the size of the rooms. Maybe you do multiple nights. Maybe you do a residency, which is something you're seeing in the music industry even at larger sizes is the residency. So it makes a little bit more financial sense to not be moving around quite as much. I think there's ways, if the appetite's there on the artist to perform in that type of space, there are creative ways that you can make that work.
So certainly within, the music industry, 20 Front Street is making a mark. People are becoming aware of you. So you're active on social media, certainly with the venue, with the guests that are coming. Word of mouth is still really important, right? So you mentioned it earlier. If I've been to 20 Front Street and had a great experience, if I'm telling others, say, hey, check it out, you're going to enjoy the experience. I mean, that's key, isn't it?
Absolutely
to moving forward?
Absolutely key. And again, all these years in, we're blown away that almost every weekend, every weekend we're doing shows, that there will be someone there that walks in and says, I live a mile down the street. Like, I never knew this place existed. And, so there is work to be done from that regard. And so we appreciate opportunities like this or anything we can do to help get the word out. We've often joked that we've made so many inroads in Nashville with the artist community, the agent community, and they're all so aware of it that sometimes we joke and we've talked to agents in Nashville that say, I think more people know about 20 Front Street in Nashville than maybe they do in Michigan. And so, there's still work to be done, and any, word of mouth is usually the best way. So if it can be shared, that's great.
But the impact that you've made locally in terms of, a new offering in the arts community, if you got 90 people multiple nights of the week, chances are they're eating dinner in downtown Lake Orion and walking to the show or having drinks or dessert after the show as well. You're impacting your community economically in a positive way as well.
And we've always said we're proud that we're in Lake Orion. It's been really fun to watch Lake Orion grow as we've grown. When we first went in, the downtown area certainly had, some restaurants and things going on, but the growth since we've been there, there's so many more new restaurants and bars that have opened up. And it really does create, the thing we hear too is what a great date night our spot is because the ability to walk, have dinner, come see a show, go grab a dessert afterwards or grab a drink afterwards. It does make it, a great experience and all that can be done in downtown Lake Orion. And there's even more to come in downtown Lake Orion because there's so much development that's ongoing and being discussed. And so, we're excited about the future and just being a part of it.
And from people that have not been yet, we'll put the website link in our show notes. But typically weekends for sure, and then other days of the week, kind of depending on how you schedule things out?
We try and pretty much stick to a Thursday, Friday, Saturday schedule that you can count on routinely. Now, every once in a while, we do have some rentals in there, stuff that may take a date off the calendar, but really Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are really where we found really to focus on. But then, of course, with the touring artists, sometimes we get opportunities for a bigger artist that their routing is only going to put them in Michigan on another day, so maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday. And if those opportunities pop up, we sometimes do things like that because, with routing, sometimes the artist can only be here on certain dates. But, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we try and focus on just because that seems to be the nights that, people are looking to go out and maybe see some live music.
And my former colleague, Stephen Clark, has performed numerous times. Other, noted Michigan artists as well, Jill Jack, my friend Julianne Ankley. These are people that are, in a sense, regulars, and friends, certainly, of 20 Front Street.
Yeah, and some of my favorite nights are sometimes we'll have, whether it be a touring artist or another Michigan artist, and I'll look in the audience, and I'll see some of those people in the audience. And they just came out because they want to see whoever's performing that night. And so creating that kind of community of, they're just as apt to go maybe listen to someone as to be performing, again, as part of what we love, what we created, because, the heart and the mission of what we did was really artist focused. And it was to give the artist a space where they can perform and be respected the way that we feel like they should. Because oftentimes when they're in other venues or bars, they may be playing in the corner, but it's loud, people are talking, there's a football game on the TV above them. And so we just really wanted to create a space where they could share their talents. People are paying attention, listening, and giving them the respect they deserve. And that's what we've tried to foster this whole time.
And I would imagine the feedback from those artists in that regard is pretty gratifying.
Yeah, and as we meet more and more of these artists and kind of listen to them and hear their struggles and what they deal with on the road, it's just more. It's more important that we provide that space, and that's when they arrive, we try and see what they need, let them know that we're here to get them whatever they need, and oftentimes they'll be routing on a tour again. The 2 nights prior, they may have played different size rooms or bars, and so to come in there and have that type of experience is what we're trying to provide. It does seem to oftentimes be a refreshing stop for them on the road because, it is difficult out there. You hear the term starving artist, and it unfortunately is so true. They're out most of these are road warriors, and they're driving from town to town, sometimes sleeping in their, van or whatever they need to do to get from town to town. We want to create kind of an oasis in all of that to help them out.
All right, so give me an idea, and I know you book out weeks and in some cases months in advance with your artists, but Liz Longley is coming. There are others as well. Who would our listeners or viewers maybe want to take note of and maybe put it on the calendar that, hey, 20 Front Street is something we might want to check out on this date for this particular artist?
Yeah, we have a great new group. Some artists we have that have been to 20 Front Street several times and come back, but obviously we still have a lot that would be first-time visitors. We have a group coming up this month. Fox and Bones is their name. It's a great new group that'll be visiting for the first time. Will Hogue is another one that's going to be there for the first time this month. And then into April and May. Liz Longley's another one. There's still tickets available for that I would highly recommend. She's a phenomenal singer-songwriter out of Nashville that's been around for years, but is as good as anyone out there. So I would recommend that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we'll look forward to getting back. And enjoying the music. Thanks for this. Again, those interested.
Yep, pretty easy to find on the web. We're 20frontstreet.com. That's
Yeah.
20frontstreet.com. And then on all the social media channels, you can find us at 20 Front Street. And again, that's 20 Front Street. And you'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media channels.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right.
Thanks for the time here. Continued good luck to you and your team at 20 Front Street, and we'll look forward to getting back
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you soon.
to listening to some more great music.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kevin.
Dave.
Kevin Bessert. He is one of the co-owners of 20 Front Street in Lake Orion, joining us today on the Dave LewAllen Podcast. As always, we thank you for watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite source for podcasts, and we encourage you to come back next time for more of this great content. In the meantime, stay safe, be kind. We'll see you next time.